Hi, I'm Dr. Elaine Ducharme. I'm a clinical psychologist in Glastonbury, Connecticut. This holiday season has already arrived. Lights are up, people are full of cheer. Well, some people are full of cheer. Not everybody is. For many people who are grieving the loss of a loved one, the holiday season can be extremely difficult. Sometimes it's the loss of a parent or a spouse, and in particular, I think the grief of the loss of a child is very, very difficult. We talk about sort of getting over loss, and for many people, if it's an elderly parent or even a spouse, the grieving process can be about 3 years. But for somebody who's lost a child, that grieving process goes on probably forever. It's very difficult to get totally beyond it. People have to find a way of living with that grief rather than just letting it go. Because children aren't supposed to die before their parents. And when the holiday season rolls around, oftentimes it's just a memory for that parent that there will never be another time where they're sitting around a table or opening gifts together or even baking together. So it's really important that you understand that if you are grieving, you don't have to try and be really cheerful for the people around you. It's not your responsibility to cheer them up. It's going to take a while to get through the holiday season, and it's really okay to honor yourself and just recognize that this may be where you're at right now. It's not going to be like this forever. It will get better over time. But this year, perhaps, or for a couple of years, recognize that it's okay to celebrate the holiday in whatever way you want to, or even pretend it doesn't exist. Try and avoid it. Go somewhere else so that you're not really caught up too much in that holiday season and the lights and all of the things, thinking that everybody around you is so happy and you're just grieving. So another way that you might try and get through the holidays is thinking of a way to honor your loved one. It might be trying to organize a service at your church or synagogue. It might be having a small gathering of friends over at your house where you sit and talk about the person who's gone. People who love you and know and can spend some time eating a simple meal and maybe sharing stories or pictures about that person. Kind of like what we do sometimes at a funeral after someone has passed away. Much of the time we try and spend some time talking and sharing and even laughing, because those are the ways that we can help get through that very critical early time. Next, I also want you to remember to nurture yourself. Take care of yourself. It may be that you just, as I said earlier, avoid holiday celebrations, but you might also want to do things like make sure that you're eating well, you're trying to get enough sleep, maybe do things like go for a massage or breathe, and use meditation. Meditation is really a wonderful way of healing. There are really some good meditations out there for grief, and it's quite possible that you might find some things on a program that I recommend a lot called Insight Timer. It has 30,000 meditations. People can really look through it and sort through. You don't have to sort through 30,000 of them. There's some filters on there to help you look for what you might find helpful. And even whether it's being grateful for what you have now or looking at just letting go of some of the pain or ways of managing just day to day. It's also really important that we acknowledge siblings, especially if a sibling has died. The children, their brothers and sisters, are really usually going through some difficult times themselves, including many times they feel like they can't replace that lost brother or sister. And many can even feel guilty and think, well, I should have been the one that died. And clearly that is not correct. And when people are feeling like that, getting some support from a psychologist or other mental health professional can be extremely helpful and extremely important. If, in fact, however, you're not the one that's mourning yourself and you're not grieving on your own, you might, though, be a friend, a really good friend of someone who is going through this process. It's important that you acknowledge their feelings. Don't just say, how are you, and expect them to say fine, because that's really not what they're looking for, and they probably aren't fine. You might say something more appropriate like, how's your day today? Is it a good one, bad one? How's it going? Do you want to go for coffee? Feel free to invite them to celebrations. They may not want to go. You can continue to invite them. But you might ask, what would you enjoy? Would you like to just come over to my house, or would it be okay if I came by and just brought a new kind of tea and some cookies that I've baked? That might be very helpful for them, because they often are afraid that when the person has died, that they're just gone and nobody's going to remember this wonderful child or this person that they have lost. So that can be really, really important. You might want to attend a religious service with them if that's important to them, and recognize that if they start to cry, just put an arm around them and give them a hug. I think probably though the most important thing you can do if you have somebody that's grieving is let them know they aren't alone. Let them know that you will walk this path with them, no matter how long it takes, that you're a person that they can be with and that you can sit with and talk with. You don't need to say, oh, it's all going to be fine, because it's not fine right now. Just let them know you're there. As long as they don't feel alone, they can feel far more comfortable. And one other quick point I do want to touch on is men and women grieve differently, really differently many times. Women tend to cry, they want to talk about it with their friends. Men tend to hold it in and maybe not talk about it at all and just get themselves involved in activities. This can be really frustrating for both people and very difficult on a couple. So it's important that you recognize that you may both be grieving every bit as much, but in different ways, and respect the other person's style of grief. Find girlfriends if you're a woman, and that's what you want to do, is be able to talk about it. For guys, maybe going fishing and being with friends or working on some projects together will be helpful. But then try and find a way to come together, acknowledge the loss together, and be sure to maybe give each other hugs and just let each other know you're going to be there for each other to get through this. I hope that you have a safe and peaceful holiday season.